Hello, everybody. Welcome back to CBN Unscripted. I'm your host, Jasmine Monk, and today we're going to be getting into something that really separates, the good from the great, the mental game. So we haven't really talked a lot about this. So I'm really excited to dive in with Coach here on this. So I've got Chris McMillan with me, the head coach at Midway University. He's a former national champion, and he's learned from some of the best in the game. And so I'm really excited about this one because we're going to be talking about confidence and mental game. And honestly, that is what really will catapult your game when it comes to bowling. So thank you, Coach, so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So I did my homework on you, right? So you were ITC national champion 2017 to 2018, and then you were telling me that you guys were the runner up the following year, right?
hmm
And then right after that, you were the graduate assistant. This was at McKendree, by the way. So then you were the graduate assistant at McKendree. And then from there, you entered into the head bowling coach position at Midway University, and you're going into your third year, right? So tell us
Yes.
about it, right? So kind of walk us through the journey. Like, I know you trained with the best of the best. You were at McKendree. So let's talk a little bit about really kind of like maybe how long you've been bowling, how you got to McKendree, and then we'll hop into Midway later. We'll save that for last in the mental game. But I kind of want us to the listeners start to just learn a little bit more about you and who you are and where you come from.
Sure. So I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. Um, Born and raised. And Buffalo, especially like the Western New York area as a whole, has bred a lot of talented players like Liz Johnson, um, Jack Jurek, Brad Angelo, things like that. I was fortunate enough to be in the bowling alley old women's tour once upon a time, before she ended up going professional and corporate, going back to school. The bowling has been in my blood. I've been bowling since I was like two. Um,
Love it. I love it.
yeah, I did like carpet bowling in Buffalo when I was younger, but when I got to like six, seven, eight, I was actually in Taekwondo.
Nice.
So it wasn't until after we moved to Atlanta where I actually started taking it serious because, again, my mom was in the bowling alley every day. And there were a lot of greats in Atlanta and Georgia, Greg Black Jr., Dominique
Mhm.
Hodo, Julian Brown, Vanina Carlton, Quantrell Green, Tanikia Fleming, all of those greats. To be in the midst of them and seeing the representation, nothing against Western New York, but it's a little polarized.
Yeah.
So to be amongst people that look like me doing great things like that, it inspired me. So one day on a Friday, after league, of course, I looked around. I was like, "Nah, I want to get better." I don't know why I asked that because it nothing but squats and push-ups
My
and
gosh.
drills,
I love
and
that.
but it made me the person that I am today. So
Sure.
you know, life happened. I started taking bowling more seriously. Started winning with scholarship money, and got to high school time. I ended up moving back to Buffalo with my mom to be a caretaker for my grandmother who took ill, and um, I seen the bowling world in a different light at that time. And of course, my mom was in league almost every day, so I was practicing. And uh, I don't think it really clicked for me until I want to say my senior year of high school bowling. I knew that I was a decent bowler,
Mhm.
um, but I ended up making it to states. And it's not common that you see a person from Buffalo Public Schools make it to states. And let me tell you why. Bowling isn't something that's like viewed as popular in Buffalo Public Schools. And because a lot of the schools don't have football teams, some high schools merge or go suburban. So Buffalo Public Schools as a whole, think of it like Chicago Public Schools or Atlanta Public Schools, very large, but money isn't always allocated in places that you think it should be.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so when someone from a Buffalo Public School makes it to states, you're like a celebrity, bro. So it was senior year, and I was in what we call the pool. So if your team didn't make it to states or high enough, then the individual person with the highest average in their region gets put in the pool,
Mhm,
and like a qualifier, right? Or like for
mhm,
like Pepsi for you. Um, I had first three games were pretty decent. We had lunch and everything, and we bowled the second set, and I got a muscle cramp in my forearm. My whole
mhm.
hand locked up. I had to
Uh,
pry my hand open. And my coach and my mom, they were like, "You need to withdraw. You need to withdraw." And I was like, "No, we did not come this far
yeah.
to come this far." So I said, "Give me some ice, give me some mustard, and some vinegar."
Let's go. Let's go.
And every shot, I pried my hand open and jammed it in the ball. I
Mhm.
went from a full approach to a three step,
Wow.
and I got the job done.
Let's go. See,
So
I
they
love.
called my name because I didn't know, I didn't think I made it. So, I was a little frustrated. Also, I'm a professional musician, so I had to go back to school because we were doing the Black History Month concert. I play double bass at the time. We were honoring the great Charles Mingus. So I'm already trying to figure out how I'm going to get through this gig. And then my coach is like, "You need to come back here. You made states. The news wants to interview you." And I was like, "Ha ha, all right." And that's when it all turned for me. I was like, if I can make the states with all these people that don't look like me,
Yeah.
um, I can do anything.
Yeah.
That's when
There
it
you
started.
go. I love
Right.
that.
So a
Wow.
lot of people don't actually know I actually was a transfer to McKendree. I
Oh,
actually bowled at Erie Community College for a year in Buffalo
okay.
because a lot of the greats that have come out of Western New York went to Erie Community College,
Hmm.
who was founded by one of the fathers of college bowling, named after the ITC Cup, Kerm Helmer.
Wow. Didn't know that. Wow.
Yes, Kerm Helmer coached ECC for many years. He helped shape high school bowling. He helped shape college bowling into what it is today. He was one of the pillars. And I felt like coming from Buffalo, I had to pay my homage somehow. So I went there for a year. Plus, I was going pre med, so it was easier to get my prereqs out of the way. Tap and Pell
Mhm.
covered everything. So I really didn't pay for books. So it was smart for me to stay home
Yeah.
for at least a year. Bowled with them, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. Um, and I was gonna bowl a second year, or I was just gonna transfer to go to UB, University of Buffalo, because they had a pre-med program. But one day I was looking on, I think YouTube, and I saw McKendree bowling against Robert Morris. And at this time, AJ Johnson was there. That was when like Robert Morris, Illinois had like the greats, like Matt Gasson and who else? Kyle King,
Hmm.
some of the guys that are on tour. Marshall Kent was on the team, and then that was when like Robert Morris was like the best school in the country. They were all on Team USA, and I saw a gentleman look just like me, built like me, haircut, and he had on McKendree's jersey.
Mhm.
And I said, I've never seen a black person bowl in college before. And I was like, he looks like me.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So I look at the roster. I know his name is Darren Dunning. So
Mm.
what does anyone do? They turn into the FBI. They go on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
And I looked up Darren Dunning.
Uh-huh.
And I said, hey, I see you both from McKendree. That's really cool. Like, I've never seen people that look like me in college bowling. Do you mind if we stay connected? I don't know how many years it's been. We are like family now.
Oh my.
Anytime I'm there, his wife Desiree hosts me, sleep at the house when I'm out of town, like family.
Yeah,
And, to this day, I give credit to Darren Dunning for
man.
just being in the right place in the right time, letting God use him
Yeah.
to let me see him. Um, and next thing you know, I go to my mom. I'm like, hey, I think I want to transfer to a bowling school. And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
So we started looking, and of course, Robert Morris, McKendree. I thought about Wichita, but that was way too far.
Yeah.
So, my mom was like, "Where's Robert Morris?" I was like, "What's in Chicago?" She was like, "Oh Lord, no, don't go to Chicago." And I'm like,
Don't
"Okay."
go too far.
So I put in my inquiry form to McKendree, and I kid you not, they called 20 minutes after.
Wow.
First, it was Dennis,
Yeah.
and then it was Bryan,
Wow.
and I was like, "Oh my God, Bryan O'Keefe!" Like Dennis. And Dennis, he was like, "You remind me of one of the guys on my team, AJ Johnson. Do you know him?" And I was like, and fast forward, AJ and I are good friends, but junior goat was coming up. It was my last year of youth. And I was like, well, I'm going to try. It was in
Mhm.
Chicago, and I knew that both schools were in Illinois, so they were both there. Um, and Bryan and Dennis were like, hey, make sure you come in and see us. By that time, I had already committed.
Okay.
So I went to they had like the combine in the
Uh-huh.
big convention room. So I went there, and they had their trophy and everything. And Greg Young was like, "Hey, are you interested in McKendree?" I said, "I'm already going."
Nice.
And they came to my practices and helped me. And I mean, did it work? I don't know. I, if I knew what I knew now, then I would probably be on Team USA. But
Mhm.
they were there, and that's
Mhm.
what mattered. Just them coming to support and saying that they were going to do what they were going to do.
Yeah.
So I think a couple weeks after that, we went to McKendree to visit, and um, Shannon was there here and there. She had other duties to do, but Bryan and Dennis spent so much time with me. Um, went to on a tour, big game against Ohio State, which is one of McKendree's rivals in volleyball, men's volleyball. It was me. Higher school. I will never forget that.
Mm.
And that's when I knew that was the decision. That was the place I needed to be. It just felt
Wow.
like it had to be there. And was it hard? I'll always say everything that glitters is not gold,
Oh yeah.
but um, it was worth it, and I had to go through it to get to where I am now.
Yeah. There you go.
So, one of the mottos at McKendree is make it your mark, or and I totally agree with that, especially in life.
Hmm.
Even if the environment isn't what you expect it to be, you have to make your mark and make the best of it. Nobody's going to do it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's what I did. And,
Mm.
you know, got the national championship with them,
Yeah.
worked my way up from JV2 to varsity my senior year. Went to almost every practice with them when they wanted to decide who was going. Uh, that wasn't my time to shine, but I did what I could to help train with my teammates to help us get the ring and the
Yeah.
trophy. Um, I always knew that college bowling was a stepping stone for me, that I was going to be blessed with more and
Yeah.
destined for more. So I just stayed the course, got my bachelor's. COVID happened, so life slowed down and ended up going to Jack State. And as soon as I saw the post, Jeff Ridgels made the post on Facebook. He always got the tea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, so Brian and Shannon are gone. I said, yeah. I said, do you need help? He said, yeah. So I sent a little email to the athletic director. And I said, I noticed that you've lost two of your coaches in the program. If you need help, I would be willing to be a grad assistant. This is the major that I'm interested in. I'd love to talk to you soon. About a month after that, I got laid off from a job that I really didn't like anyway. So that was a blessing. I just
Mhm.
know that God was clearing a path.
Yeah.
Um, I was laid off, was doing unemployment. I was, working some temp jobs, things like that. Things just didn't feel like they fit. And I felt like I was in what I call a transition phase.
Mm. Mhm.
God was starting to move things out of the way so I could get through. And One day I was just at home talking to one of my surrogate moms about, just some plans. And then I get a phone call that says Anthony from McKendree. And I was like, why is their AD calling me? So he calls me and he's like, Chris, how you doing? I got your email. Sorry for waiting just to get things in motion. So about that grad assistant job, are you still interested? I said, yes. He said, well, it's yours if you want it. I said, oh my God, sweet. I said, well, let me pray on it. I need to talk to my mom first. We need to,
Yeah.
make sure things are decent and in order.
Hmm.
And I said, can you give me a day? He said, sure. Talk to my mom. I said, they want me to be the grad assistant. She said, you said yes, right? I said, no. I said, thank you. Can I pray on it and talk to you first? So I called him back. I said, it's a yes. I said,
Mhm.
when do you want me to start? He said, can you come down in 2 weeks? I said, um, sure. So I don't know how I did it. I packed my entire life in 2 suitcases and a duffel bag. This was when
Man.
Southwest had free bags. Made it work. I had no car. I had a plan.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, my best friend Brianna Clemmer became the assistant coach for the women's team at the
Wow.
same time. You see how God was working?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
like this. So if it wasn't me, it was her. We was all just always together. I give Brianna so much credit for keeping me sane during that time because she knows exactly what I was going through.
Yeah.
Uh Became the grad assistant, and that was an interesting time. Um, and I was gonna go back. I signed my contract to become assistant coach. Um, Dennis said that he would love me to come back. I didn't know how it was gonna work, but again, I had a plan, and I was walking by faith. I hadn't fallen too hard since
Hmm.
then, so I was like, everything was a stumble, but nothing was a fall. So if
Yeah.
it's gonna work, it's gonna work. During it was in April, we were at nationals. It was in Louisville. I was just scrolling, doom scrolling, 3 in the morning, and something just said, "Look up, see if there are any jobs for head coach." And I was like, "Midway, where the hell's that?" Excuse me, church. And I was like, "Okay, Kentucky. I've seen them before.
Yeah.
They had the yellow pants, but they looked like they had a good time." So I started the application, but I didn't do anything. I texted my mom. I sent her a screenshot. Sent my best friend Lawrence a screenshot. I said, "This is open. Should I do it?" And he was like, "Yeah, definitely." I said, "Yeah, but it's for the men's and women's team. I don't know if I can juggle that. I've only really done, just men's. I help out with the women at McKendree. I've coached women, but I never, to be a head coach of two teams." They said, well, I can't really tell you what they said because there was a lot of cursing. Long story short, I did it.
Wow.
So
Look at that.
graduated, got my master's. Well, I walked the stage for my master's. I still had 3 classes to finish. So graduation was in May. I got to walk and everything, and I finished my classes the end of that July. So move home temporarily. I was going to work, stack up my money a little bit so when I can go back to McKendree, I got a little surplus. Um, and I had got a job that I worked when I was in undergrad. It was working in the kitchen, and I mean, did I like it? No, but the tips were good.
Hmm.
So I think I worked 2 days of that from this Georgia area code. And I was like, I don't know anybody that I wouldn't have their number for in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I answered the phone, and he's like, "Hi, my name is Jake so and so from Midway. I'm the athletic director." I said, "Hi." He's like, "I want to tell you about, phone screening and, setting up an interview." I said, "Okay, can I place you on a brief hold?" I run upstairs to my mom and said, "Mom, it's the athletic director Midway." She was like, "Okay, let me know how it goes." So we ended up having a phone interview. And he's like, "I want to do a virtual interview." And I said, "Okay." Do the virtual interview. It was like a week after. And I'd never forget, I was on like a Monday and I'm opening up the restaurant. I get a call from Jake. He goes, sorry, I haven't reached out. It's been busy. We'd love for you to come and visit for an in-person interview. I said, when? He said, can you do Wednesday? Everything is paid for. I said, call my mom. I said, you got PTO? She said, yeah. I said, we driving. We out. Go to Kentucky. Everything is paid for. We come on campus. Campus is beautiful. It's as small, just like McKendree. I think they're about, I would say they're about the same size, just different setup. And I was like, okay, I like it here. And I had the same feeling when I got to campus at Midway that I did when I got to McKendree.
Yeah, that's how you
Almost
know.
kismet, almost like God is like, here.
Yeah.
And my mom, she was there, we went to visit the bowling alley. The athletic director wanted me to ride in the car with him. My mom followed us. I'm talking to the general manager of Capitol Bowl, and they're communicating. Then my mom was talking to the GM, and then we went to lunch. Myself and the athletic director, he's asking me questions, and the way he was phrasing them was like I already had the job, but I didn't want to count the eggs before the chicken, right?
Yeah, I get that.
So once everything was done, my mom was like, "You're gonna get the job. He likes you. He picked you." And I was like, "Well, how do you know that?" She goes, "I know." Now my mom is a manager in human resources, so she has these conversations all the time. So
That's right.
in hindsight, I probably should have listened to Mama. He said, "You'll hear something in 2 days." I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, let me know when you make it back safely." It's okay. That was Wednesday. Texted him Wednesday night, "Hey, we made it back safely." Thursday morning, I got the job.
Man, that's amazing.
And it was just, like I said, everything fit. Nothing felt forced. Nothing
Mhm.
felt like I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get there. Everything felt like I was walking into my purpose
Yeah.
and walking into God's favor. And, you know, I still wake up maybe a little cranky and grumpy, but I still wake up every morning and it just feels surreal that I'm here
Yeah.
in this space, in this time, in God's plan. It's something that I prayed for and kind of put away because life happened. And I always say, yes, when you pray for exactly what you want, you get that and more.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to listen and look at what God is doing to prepare you for it. It
Oh,
don't matter how long it takes. Um, I never thought that I always figured I would get my grad degree. I never knew that it would just happen like this. I
yeah.
always figured I would end up coaching somehow. I never thought I would be one of the youngest black coaches in the country in the sport. I started at 28, 27, 28. Now I'm 29. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I never thought that I would have a team of 40 plus individuals, that I lead and I sweat and work hard with them,
Yeah.
So I'm still just grateful. I
Yeah.
don't take any day for granted. Some days are harder than most or harder than some, but that's the job. And most importantly, it's what you prayed for. Just because you prayed for it and you got it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy.
Say it
Um,
again. Say that
but
again. That's so
I
man.
just make sure to remember to thank God for what He has done for me, what He's doing, and stay grateful through it all because
Yeah.
there are every day isn't going to be 100%. You just gotta make the best of what you have and what you got.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my that your story is so it's inspiring. It's really inspiring. I appreciate you sharing that because, there's a lot of I'll speak, from my own experience. Like there are some paths that I didn't know were pathways like coming out of school. And
Hmm.
there may be a lot of other athletes watching this that they feel or felt the same way. And so it's very, very inspiring. I want to hone in on it was a lot. So you share a lot, right? So I really want to hone in on like we said we are going to talk about mindset. You've got mindset on the lanes, but we're talking a little bit of on and off the lanes. So the confidence
Hmm.
and the mindset, right? From when you were in high school you hurt your forearm to finishing to, just everything that has happened. Talk to us a little bit about how you were able to stay upbeat and positive, and you prayed, all of these things. Like, talk to us about that, because I feel that there are a lot of people going through this and they may not know how to handle these different things being thrown at them, or maybe they may not really know what steps to take for their next step. Like, talk to us about that with kind of your journey, because like you said, it happened so fast, but it was paced, but it happened fast, but it happened in the order that it needed to happen in. But talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, ever since I was a wee child, I've always, if something is new for me and I don't necessarily grasp it, I'm going to figure out how to get it done. My mom bought me Legos and the Connects, and I was one of those kids that always took apart something to put it back together. Maybe not always right, but it was, but I think that's what developed my work ethic, because I hated not mastering something, except the Rubik's Cube. Y'all can have that. I got the patience for the Rubik's Cube. But, my mom always instilled in me the value of what hard work is, and self-fulfillment to get what you want, and that's something that I think in that sense falls in line with confidence. You have to believe that anything is possible and that you can do something in order to achieve it. A lot of people don't realize how malleable our brains are. And my field of study is called neuroplasticity, which means every time you do something, you're creating a new pathway in your brain, a new synapse. You can literally create the person you want to be. So, bowling in, or just watching the greats, picking apart what makes them, the things that they do well, that they don't. I'm a very visual learner, in part because I'm like I said, I'm a musician. So a lot of times we have to do things on the fly. Yeah. So that taught me how to really just look, observe, look at the important parts. That's how I became better, but also, like I mentioned, my mom bowled in league every day. After I got done with my homework, what was I doing? Bowling.
Yeah.
And what a blessing YouTube was, where now you can watch the pros, the telecast, and watch people's videos and learn from them, pick apart their game. So every time I was bowling, it may not have been right, but I was always working, trying to figure out how my body was able to do what I was watching. Two of my favorite athletes in bowling, Wes Malott and Robert Smith. And I said, I want to have the finesse of Wes Malott, but the power of Robert Smith. And it took a while. I am still trying to refine, but I got that now.
Yeah.
And, I practice when I'm in season. I try to put myself second, because my players are my priority, right? So I don't compete as much in season, but when but I'm training, right? So I'm practicing with my team. I'm working out with my team. I'm running with them, maybe in Crocs and some, church pants, but I'm still running with them. We're doing squats, push-ups, deadlifts, mountain climbers. I'm training with them. Because at moment's notice, I might have to go out of town and bowl for $10,000 with Nelly and Ashanti, like I just did in Georgia 3 weeks ago.
Let's go.
So I got to make sure that I'm right.
Yeah.
So, just that hard work in general, and I recognize the privilege that I have. I've been allotted a lot of things that people really don't get, like my godfather. He's in 4 Halls of Fames. He won a Eagle back when it was the ABC Open Championships, not the USBC Open Championships. Being able to get coaching from Team USA players and sponsorships that I have, I don't take that for granted, and I just try to share that. That keeps me invested in my work ethic as well, because I don't like to fail. So, in situations like, I had the forearm injury. That was not the last time that I got injured or tore or pulled something bowling. A couple years after that, ironically, around the time before I got laid off from that job, I was bowling a tournament about an hour away from home. And ABC Gates Bowl, that's where the tour just was, in Rochester. They have some steps, like 3 steps down into the settee. And yeah, I fell. I don't know how I fell, but I
Oh
knew I was
no.
going down.
Yeah.
Imagine like Shaq falling forward in slow motion. And I had glasses, so I went like this to cover my face,
Yeah.
landed on my thumb, and my thumb bent in ways that it probably shouldn't have.
Oh Jesus.
So I was like, I don't think you're supposed to bend like this.
Yeah.
So what did I do? Because we drove an hour there. I was like, we are not driving an hour back penniless.
Yeah.
So I might have swallowed a half a bottle of Tylenol, and used some KT tape, the whole pack, and made myself a splint.
Oh my gosh.
Taped my thumb back in place,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, we're going to get this money.
Yes. Get
And
that
I ran the
money.
ladder.
Yeah.
And it was a match play tournament too, so it was at least 3 games per match.
Wow.
I think I finished third, fourth. My mom, she was like, we need to go to the hospital. I said, well, let me win this tournament so I can pay for the copay. You did not drive an hour for me to limp back home.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
leaving
my
here with
God.
something. So that's what I did. That's that grit, that tenacity, that
Uh-huh.
that fire, the it factor, the Mamba mentality, if that's what you will.
Yeah.
I call it the alpha gene, or peak performance state, or what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the father of sports psychology, would call it the flow state.
Yeah.
You have to be able to kind of turn your brain off in certain areas when you want to accomplish something. That's what's gotten me this far. The trials, the errors, the learning, the evolution. That's what I teach with my clients, because when I'm not coaching in bowling, I am a mental performance coach who specializes in performance psychology, sports psychology. So
Wow.
when I've
That's
worked
good.
with Team USA athletes
Yeah.
from either bowling, I've worked with some Team USA athletes from USA track and field.
Mm-hmm.
Other athletes from their respective national teams, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Venezuela,
Mm-hmm.
Canada, Malaysia, Singapore, you
Yeah.
know, even professional dancers and musicians,
Mm-hmm.
non-traditional students. I teach the same thing when it comes to confidence enrichment.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be able to turn off your certain parts of your brain, tap
Yeah.
into that peak performance state. Well, I also have to teach the process of what that is, because if I say your
Yeah.
flow state, people are like, what?
Yes.
So,
That's so good.
first things first.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do that with myself all the time when I need that extra focus. Or, I mean, we've all seen it. If we've watched, tennis, you watch Serena, she might drop a set and then she aces the next 6 shots. And you're like, where is that
Mm-hmm.
intensity? Or Kobe, may he rest in peace, when he's done some superhuman things, or
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan, and you're like, what? How did he? That is the peak performance state.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
it works differently for everybody. But my job as a coach, as a sports psychologist specialist, is to help people figure out how.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, y'all know who to call if you need me. If you want to work on your mental game, we know who to call. That's amazing. Um, I didn't know that. You hit that in your back pocket, because I absolutely didn't know that. But no, I appreciate you sharing that. Even just with your experiences and how you navigated those and overcame those. I really know that that is helpful for whoever is watching this, whether they are still a youth bowler, collegiate bowler, even adult bowlers. Like, this is something, right, that requires a lot of, it doesn't matter your age, or even your level. Like you said, you're training with USA Track and Field, Team USA. These are very experienced, these are PhDs in what they're doing. and you are helping them with their mental game. So it's never too late. It doesn't matter what level you're on to be able to to be able to hone into that. So thank you for sharing that. One last question for you, because we talked about a lot. What are your thoughts about collegiate bowling? I'm just a huge advocate for telling everybody all about it, and that we're growing and thriving and doing all of these things. But I would love to hear your thoughts on, you know, college bowling in general, but kind of where collegiate bowling is headed.
Sure. Um, First, I would say that college bowling is very nuanced, right? You have your NCAA's, you
Mhm.
have different conferences in that, and that's all women's bowling. Um, then we have like the SWAC conference, which is I think all HBCUs, right?
It is,
And
yes.
I feel like that doesn't get enough coverage.
Hmm. Say it
And
again.
then
Say it again. Just okay. Keep going. Keep going.
and then when we go into the USBC side, and that's the governing body of all college bowling, NCAA included, that's nuanced because you have your club sports, you have your NAIAs, which is basically like NCAA light, and that does have men's and women's bowling in there. And then you have the non, what do you call it? It's like the non-club sports teams where like the school might be NCAA,
Hmm.
but they have a men's team as well. So like that's like your Lindenwoods, your McKendrees, things like that. Um, and all of that composes bowling, right? But NCAA gets their own type of coverage because it's NCAA.
Yeah.
NAIA gets their type of coverage because they're NAIA.
Hmm.
Club sports have their own coverage. So I like how there's little pockets, but at the end of the day, we're all one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what I feel this way about all the sports, right? So one thing that I do think the powers that be in Capitol Hill have done well was the 5th year one transfer rule that they're instituting.
Hmm.
Um,
Sorry about that.
and
Yeah.
if you guys don't know what that means, it means instead of 4 years of college, and traditionally like an NAIA, that's 10 full semesters of competition that you're eligible for, you get 5 years. So that would probably 12 semesters. So you can go through, your 4 years of undergrad and then 1 year of grad. Um, or if you want to take a small break. On the other side of that, the caveat is you can only transfer to one school.
Hmm.
Um, then you got to finish it out. I feel like our culture in athletics has made a turn where it's like, okay, if I don't like the way this coach coaches, then I can go to another school. Or, if I don't get enough playing time because nobody has held me accountable ever in my adolescence, then I'm going to
Hmm.
go somewhere where, I can get away with murder, basically. And it's like,
Yes.
eh,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's limits to that.
Yeah.
So, I will say, and I'm in by no means giving Trump my approval. But the one thing I will say is I do like that from a
Hmm.
coaching perspective because it
Hmm.
teaches these young athletes how to grow up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, on the other side of that, I think college bowling is going into a part of or evolving because I hate to say the word change. I like evolve a little bit better.
Sure.
Um, with the urethane ban,
Yeah.
um, I'm not for or against urethane. I think it's a great tool. Um, but I was actually just talking about this. I think the issue that urethane has become such a gift or a curse, like or love it, is because of how quickly the sport has evolved. And a lot of parents, because these balls are so strong now, they're not looking for private coaching or
Yeah.
youth leagues like they used to.
Yep.
So because of that, there is a bit of a um gradient in spectrum when it comes to education and knowledge of bowling, where people are getting better physically, but they aren't getting better mentally.
Mm.
Um, so I think that's one reason why college bowling is starting to evolve because we're trying to make up for that gap in education.
Mm.
Um, and I don't see it as a good or bad thing. In order to survive, you have to evolve.
Yeah.
But I think it's up to people who want to keep the sport going it's our duty to educate the younger generations because this is
Yeah,
where we are.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so that's what I try to do. I'm very optimistic about where college bowling is going. Um, like for example, our conference just introduced mega matches.
Hmm.
And if you guys don't know what a mega match is, NCAA uses this, where it's basically a point system. First game is traditional, right?
It is. Yep.
First game's traditional, 5 players,
Hmm.
and then total pins. The second game is best of 5
Correct.
total pins, right?
Exactly.
And
Yep.
then if it's a tie, then you go to best of 7
Yes.
bakers.
Yep.
And I think it's fun. It's competitive. It gives teams a chance to rally. It takes longer, but you really don't care about the time. It's
Yeah.
like your own little pocket.
Hmm.
So that's something that I think is really cool. I see that, or I'm seeing the trend that college bowling is going to start adopting uniform rules across the board.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is so important. So that's what makes me excited. A little more uniformity never hurts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So the mega match, I did a lot of on-site coverage with the SWAC, NCAA this season. And, when I was in school, there was no mega match. So this year we went to the championship and I'm like, mega what? I'm like, how does this even work? It took me a day. And I'm like, okay, I got it. But I love it. Like you said, the camaraderie it does take longer, but I love it. And it gives everybody an opportunity. It's great. I really like the format. So I'm so glad that you guys adopted it. That you said your conference wait, the NAIA or your conference adopted it?
So the NAIA adopted it for the
Okay. So,
conference. We're part of the yeah. So Midway is a part of River State's conference, but River
okay.
State's doesn't have bowling. So we're
Um,
affiliates of Mid South.
Gotcha. Okay, got it, got it. Okay, well, I think it's great. That everybody's adopting. I was like, this is so cool because it was just best sport 7 when I was in school. It's traditional or Baker's best
Yeah, and then
sport
you're
7.
done. You're
Right.
like, wait a minute, we just getting loose.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that. But no, again, just thank you for everything that you shared. For those of you watching, you know who to reach out to. His information will be in the description. If you have questions about your mental game, feel free to reach out to Chris, Coach McMillan, and I'm sure he'd be happy to help. But thank you for sharing just your journey and your story. And like I said, like I know for all the aspiring bowlers out there, even the ones that are bowling and want to do things outside of bowling. I know that you have inspired them so much because you honestly have inspired me. I'm like, okay, I need to get on my game a little bit more. So I appreciate it. Make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Take care.